Alright guys, so we're going to try this out. Actually, I want to start on our pink page to make sure that we have some of that. So the first page that we did was Intro and Quadratic Regression, and that was on 25 and 26. And we talked a little bit about that today. And what I want to talk about with you now is graphing in vertex form, which we're going to do on 27 and 28. Okay? So hopefully what I try to allude to in class is that this is very similar to our absolute value graphs, okay? So I put the little note card on page 28, and then I put my book on page 27. And so if I'm looking at vertex form, we can hopefully now see even better that A, H, and K are clearly visible. And a lot like with absolute value form, H, K is my vertex, and A, it's like my slope-ish. I say slope-ish because we can't really count it as a rise over run sort of deal, but what we can do is we can always do A over 1. So we can do that slope once, but we always have to go whatever A is and then over 1. And we can only do it once, so only once. So if I think about making a really good looking graph of this, the steps that I would follow is first, that I would identify, my H, K, and plot the vertex, because that's what it is. And second, I would use A as slope over 1 once. You can only do it once. Now really that's only 3 points in my graph because I can do this slope in both directions because I have the U shape that I'm trying to get, just like we did with our V graph. So if I really wanted to get more points, another easy point that we talked about in class today that I could do is I could find the y-intercept, because it's always at 0, something. So I plug 0 into x and find y. So it's like a lot to talk about to just kind of try it. Okay? So if we look over at our book, we have that vertex, which again we can find by doing H, K. We have our y-intercept, which we said would be 0, something. And if we actually think about plugging that something in, it would look like y equals a parenthesis 0 minus h squared plus k. And 0 minus h is h, squared is h squared. And so really all this simplifies to is AH squared plus K, which is real strange, but that's the number that's going to go there. Okay, and then finally the thing that I mentioned right at the end of class, because we talked about being in the middle and having the same things on both sides, that middle line is called an axis of symmetry. And that middle line happens to go through your vertex. Like if you think about your parabola, you have your vertex here, and that's also right where you can cut your graph in half. So your axis of symmetry is actually an x equals equation because it's a vertical line and it's going through x at your vertex, which means it's at h. Okay, so when we go try some in here, if I'm given a graph already in vertex form, then I should just be able to identify the things. So in my order, I actually like to find the vertex first, which is going to be at -2, 3. And note that I did change that sign because anytime I'm taking something out of parentheses or putting it back in, we always change the signs. I can tell that my parabola is going to open down because I'm negative. My slope to one point is going to be that -2. My axis of symmetry, if we think about that, is going to be at x equals -2, that x value of the vertex. And then we can think about our y-intercept in a second, but if I start kind of drawing this out, if I go to negative 2, 3, and then I do my slope down 2 over 1 in both directions, we start to get that U shape. And we want to make sure that when we draw this, it does look U-shaped and not V-shaped. So if I think about plugging 0 in to get my y-intercept, I would have 2 squared is 4 times negative 2 plus 3 is going to give me negative 5, which makes sense down here. And then, because I have that line of symmetry, I can get another point because I can plop it over on the other side. So then I get a really nice looking U-graph. Okay. The next one is very similar, so I'm going to take out my vertex at 4, negative 3. I can tell that my parabola is going to go up because I'm positive, and that slope to one point is going to be half. If I think about my axis of symmetry, it's going to be at x equals 4 because it's the x value of your vertex. And then that y-intercept, if I think about plugging in 0, I'm going to have half negative 4 squared minus 3. Negative 4 squared is 16, and half of that is 8. Sorry, 8 minus 3, which is 5. So now I can go plot all the things. I would go over 4, down 3 for my vertex. I can plot my y-intercept, which is up at 5. I can flip it over on the other side of this axis of symmetry, which is 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side. And I can also do that slope. So now here's where it's kind of strange, because I can't think of it as up 1 over 2. From that vertex, I have to go half always over 1. So it's getting it like a little bit wider, flattening that U out a little bit. Okay. The next type of problem we might do is in the reverse of that. So I might have my equation already, and I want to write, or I might have my graph already and I want to write my equation. So I can do it in vertex form by starting here and filling in my vertex, which is that low point or high point. And so we'd have a parenthesis x minus negative 4, so really plus 4, and then minus 2. Now the problem is I don't know a, although this is 1 point away from that. And so I kind of can just see how much I changed by. So I went from negative 2 up to negative 1.75, and so I think my a value should be a quarter, because I increased a quarter right there. And then you have it. Okay, and the one right next to it, if I start off the same way, y equals a, parenthesis x minus h squared plus k. I can see my vertex, it's that high point this time, so x minus 2 squared plus 6. And then this point is 1 away, and it changed by going down 3. So I think my a value, my slope, is negative 3. Okay, and last but not least, you should be able to try to change from vertex to standard form, which really just means follow order of operations. So for instance, on that first one, I would have to do the exponent first, because I can't do what's in parentheses. And when I square something, that truly means I write it twice and multiply it. And so we need to remember how to multiply a two-term thing by a two-term thing, and we had like a fun little acronym for that, which was FOIL, so like first, outer, inner, last. And so if I do that, the 2, he's just chilling, we're going to drop him down. X times x is x squared. Then I'll have 1x, and then another 1x, and then 1 times 1 for last, which is 1. Then I could combine like terms in the parentheses, so I'll have 2x squared plus 2x plus 1. And then finally I would distribute that 2, so 2x squared plus 4x plus 2. Okay, and last but not least, we have this one here where I do the parentheses again first. I can't do what's inside, so I have to do the exponent instead. So again, I would do that FOIL thing, where I'm going to do first times first, the outermost, the innermost, and then last, and I have a negative chilling out front. So you have x squared minus 3x plus 9, and then plus 4 who's chilling at the end. I would combine my like terms, so negative 6x. Then I would distribute my negatives, so really just change all the signs. And then I can combine like terms one more time. And then I am done. So guys, hopefully that helps with our homework. We're going to try our best. Keep in mind, we're going to review this all on Friday. Love you, bye.